Hello, my dear students. So today we'll talk about a very particular topic, electron gain enthalpy and electron affinity. So many times we believe that these two are two different entities. Is it so? Are these two things differently used? No, sir. I believe these two are actually meant for the same thing. Then why we term these two things differently? Why we have a different term known as electron gain enthalpy and why we have a term known as electron affinity? If these two are same, one and the same thing, why we term these with these two names? Okay, now let's talk about it. Let's talk about that what is electron gain enthalpy and what is electron affinity. Fine, my dear. Let's start today's class. So the today's topic will be electron gain enthalpy and why we call this thing as electron affinity also. So now let's talk about it. First of all, electron gain enthalpy. We can all understand with this name only that enthalpy, that means it has something to do with that energy. Electron gain, that means an atom wants to hold an extra electron. Okay, so now let's start with those who really want to receive an electron. These are non-metals. So let's say that let's talk about chlorine first. So chlorine, as we all can understand, the chlorine, the total number of electron will be 17287. Very easy, isn't it? Okay, we can go further and just talk about the electronic configuration also. So that will be 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p5. So this is my chlorine. So let's assume that chlorine is like a person. Okay, a man who really want to, get involved with someone. Let's assume that there is a person known as Rajiv who really want to get married and want to have a relationship, a love marriage sort of. So he loves someone. Now, when he get back to home and want to convince his parents that, okay, daddy, okay, mommy, I'm in love and I want to get married to this girl, it will create a whole lot of trouble. Yes, nowadays people are becoming pretty flexible, but let's say the parents of Rajiv was not ready for this sort of things. In the same way, chlorine wants to gain one more electron. As we can see that the nucleus contains 17 protons, the first shell contains 2 electrons, the second shell will contain 8 electrons, and the valence shell will contain 7 electrons. Now chlorine wants to gain one more electron. What about these 7 electrons? This will create a whole lot of repulsion. In the same way as Rajiv's parents was not ready to accept that girl. Fine. Now what? The love of Rajiv is very strong. He wants to get married to this girl. The relationship is pretty good. Now Rajiv will sacrifice anything for the love of his life. Now this sacrifice in terms of, when chlorine wants to gain this electron, look at this carefully. The electron will coming from outside. And we all know that when an electron come from any infinity point towards the nucleus, the overall scenario is that the energy will be lost. So when chlorine wants to gain this electron, the overall energy, just to avoid this repulsion, will be less than the initial one. Look at that. Now Rajiv's parent will say, if you get married to this girl, you will not get anything from our property. You will lose anything which you can inherit as a property. So now Rajiv is ready to sacrifice. In the same way, chlorine is ready to sacrifice energy. to gain this electron. And why is it so? Because chlorine is really very keen to gain that extra electron. Fine. So the energy released to acquire an extra electron by an atom in its isolated gaseous state can be termed as electron gain enthalpy. And now at this point of time, we are talking about non-metals. We are talking about non-metals. So this atom will be non-metal. Because non-metals will want to gain an extra electron. This is what it's all about. So, and in the same way, as Rajiv is ready to lose his ancestral property, in the same way, chlorine is ready to lose the energy to gain that extra electron. So let's say, my dear students, let's say you are preparing for NEET and you want that NEET seat. So this is you. Okay, this is atom A. To acquire one electron and become A negative, this atom A is ready to shell out near about, let's say, 200 joule of energy, 200 joule per mole. As the energy is, coming out of the system, so this is considered as a loss. So the sign of this will be negative. In your thermodynamics, I will tell you that this will be known as delta H, the representation of enthalpy. At this point of time, it will be considered as energy only. But in thermodynamics, we'll discuss about delta H, and that is the enthalpy. And delta H is negative in case of exothermic reaction. So this is an exothermic reaction. Atom A is gaining this electron to become A negative and ready to shell out this -2, that's 200 joule of energy. And B, in the process of acquiring the extra electron, B is ready to lose 400 joule of electron, 400 joule of energy. Sorry, 400 joule of energy. Okay, it's all about, in this world, it's all about who can pay more. Who can pay more? Auction is actually a global phenomenon. Everywhere in this world, if you want to get something, you need to pay more than the others are willing to pay. Let's say if you want to get a seat of NEET, or if you want to get a seat of IIT JEE, then you have to pay more. And this is not about money. The payment, if you want to get anything for your physical benefits, like you want to buy a new mobile phone, Apple is going to launch its new phone maybe in about the next 2 weeks. So you need to shell out money. But if you want to gain something for your mind, for your brain, for your spiritual growth, then you have to pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. Attention is the money. So my dear students, if you are ready to pay more attention, you will get that. Now look at this. B is ready to pay more, ready to lose 400 joule as compared to A, which is ready to lose 200 joule only. So who will get that seat of NEET or IIT JEE? Definitely the one with more negative value. So let's say non-metal A is ready to lose 200 joule of energy. Non-metal B is ready to lose 400 joule of energy for that electron. Who will get electron easily? The one who is ready to lose more energy. So more negative, the value of electron gain enthalpy, better the, now let me tell you the another term, electron affinity. Affinity means affection, love. If you love someone, deeply, pretty much, You will say, I want him, I want her at cost of anything. Whatever it takes, like Avengers said, whatever it takes. Because the passion and the love for their work, for their duty, for their job is that deep. So they said, whatever it takes. So more, that affinity is actually the affection. Affinity is actually the affection. So more negative the value of electron gain enthalpy, better the electron affinity. Fine, my dear. So electron affinity is a sense, what you can say, in terms of non-metals, electron gain enthalpy is the energy which is coming out in the process of acquiring one extra electron. So this is going to be the negative thing. But how much you can lose? As much you love that person. So electron affinity is basically is used in a positive sense in this case. Fine, my dear. So if you love someone, if you love something, if you really want to become a doctor, if you really love your, that yes, I will really want to become a doctor. So you need to pay more attention than anybody else. The one who is getting rank 1 is paying 100% attention, is paying it's not about even 100%, is paying more attention than all others are paying. Neeraj Chopra is getting gold. And why? Because he is paying more attention to his game than anybody else at global level. This is something you need to understand, my dear student. If you are ready to pay more attention than what everybody else is paying, you will get that very easily. So I hope you now understand the difference between the electron gain enthalpy and electron affinity. More the electron affinity, more the affection, more the attraction, you will lose more energy. Fine. What about metals? They want to lose electron. They don't want to gain an extra electron. Fine. Then, if they don't want to gain an extra electron, and you want that they will hold an extra electron, they don't want it. Like somebody, many student, they took admission in coachings. They took admission in maybe in engineering or in medical, for medical sciences. And after a few, their parents, they're providing them with whole lot of support. You know what? They're like metals. They don't want this electron. And you are actually putting a pressure on them to gain that electron. They don't want it, but you want it. In the same way, metal don't want electron, but we want that metal will hold an extra electron. That means we need to supply energy. We need to supply energy so that they will get this electron. So the process is endothermic. Fine. So in case of metal don't want, they don't want to gain. So we need to supply energy from outside so that they can hold one extra electron. Fine. So in case of metal, the electron gain enthalpy will be positive and electron affinity will be negative. Why? But they don't want. No, I don't want. Leave it. I don't want it. Papa wants me to do this IIT, but I don't want it. Fine. You need to understand this. So, my dear students, we need to understand this pretty important fact that metal don't want to get. So the electron affinity will be negative in this case. But electron gain enthalpy is positive. So what we can generally say that in case of non-metals, they want electron. So in case of non-metals, the electron gain enthalpy will be negative. They will lose out, they will shell out energy to gain that electron, and electron affinity will be positive. But in case of metals, woohoo, metals, they don't want to get one extra electron. So electron gain enthalpy will be positive and electron affinity will be negative. They don't want it. You want them to get that electron. Pretty easy, isn't it? So this is what the whole system of electron gain enthalpy and electron affinity, the periodic system in general, in periodic table, as you move from left to right, the electron gain enthalpy increases and top to bottom decreases. But I'm talking about in general. Actually, they don't follow a regular trend. In general, we can say, but they don't follow a regular trend. And why is it so? You will get to know after we have finished with ionization energy. After completing with ionization energy, I will revise this electron gain enthalpy and electron affinity once more so that we can have a better idea what these two themes are. So now I believe that you will get an idea about electron gain enthalpy and electron affinity pretty well. Thanks a lot. Take care. And please don't forget to subscribe this channel and share this. Thank you. You can do it this much for me. Thank you, guys.